Welcome, friends, to another exciting episode of A VGM Journey. And I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing in this week's show is Title Theme from the game Netherworld, and that was composed by Jori Olkkonen. Once again, I have a fun and exciting show for you guys, and I have a special guest with me this week. I want you guys to give a warm welcome to Matt Sheldon of Commodore Gaming.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Definitely excited to listen to some music and talk a little bit about what we have going on.
You definitely brought some real good stuff to the show, and I'm very excited to play a lot of this stuff and talk about it.
Yeah, I tried to grab some tracks that kind of spanned my gaming history to show people a little bit of what I grew up enjoying.
I did bring a couple tracks of my own for the show. They're going to be the play in and play out tracks. And I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I was being a little cheeky with the play in track. It's a pretty amazing song, but I picked it because it was actually for a game on the Commodore 64.
Very nice.
I kind of just picked that because of the whole Commodore gaming deal.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, I run an organization called Commodore Gaming. We're a gaming community specific to Erie, Pennsylvania, where we host some events and that sort of thing.
I think for most people, I think it's just going to be like, okay, that's cool. But I think for the Erie people, I think this is definitely an organization that you should check out. I mean, it's full of really good people, and I'll tell you, by my own experience, like the game nights, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I say let's get into the music.
Let's do it.
I think we're going to start things off with a track from the game Hades. The track is In the Blood, and it was composed by Darren Korb with vocals by Darren Korb and Ashley Barrett. Let's give that one a listen. that track that you guys just heard, that was In the Blood from the game Hades. It was composed by Darren Korb, and it was featuring vocals by Darren Korb and Ashley Barrett.
Yeah, and
Man,
I think this is a particularly cool track because there are actual characters in the game who are the performers of this song. And there's kind of a lot of build up to the point where you finally hear this version of the song featuring those two characters, and it's an awesome moment and just a really cool track.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I agree. Like that is some really good stuff. And to be honest, I actually have no experience whatsoever with Hades. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of great music, just great game overall. Obviously not one from my childhood, but one to represent my more recent tastes.
and I'm actually a pretty big fan of Darren Korb and his music. I mean, I think every single game that he's worked on for Super Giant Games, I mean, it is some really good stuff. I mean, he's worked on stuff like Bastion and Transistor. I mean, heck, I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to be doing the upcoming sequel for Hades, Hades 2.
Yeah, he's definitely got a great track record.
And the vocals, I mean, I think the guy's definitely got some range, and I mean, he's constantly collaborated with Ashley Barrett, and it's just, I don't know, those two, they definitely work well together. I'm not really sure if you've listened to any of those other games and their soundtracks, but they're just like Hades. I mean, it's really good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't played nearly as much of any of those, but I have played some, and the soundtracks are all awesome.
You did play Hades, right?
Oh yeah, yep, to a ridiculous degree. One of my favorites.
So you're definitely excited for Hades 2 then.
Oh, very much so, very much so.
You thinking you're ready for the next track?
Yeah, this next track we're going to listen to is Faydark from EverQuest. This game was a big part of my childhood, and the composer for this is Barbeau.
that track that you guys just listened to, that was Faydark from the game EverQuest, and it was composed by J. Barbeau.
Yeah, definitely a neat track. If you're not familiar with EverQuest, this is from kind of a deep forest area that you hear this track, and it definitely brings up some nostalgia for me when I hear it.
The game's definitely a classic, and I do hear that forest sound as well. Like I don't really know how to describe how I'm having that feeling. It's just I could just tell.
Yeah, there's kind of a certain ethereal quality to it that feels like an old forest. Yeah.
I will ask you this though. Does the song sound very somber to you, or is that just me?
No, I agree. I think there's definitely a little bit there, and I think that goes in line with that old forest feel. There's a lot of mystery and a lot of just nature taking its course.
I'm assuming that you played quite a bit of EverQuest.
Yes, I did. Yeah, kind of one of my first forays into the MMO genre, which was really big for me and really big for me in middle school, high school, and college.
Oh, wow. Not to sound like a broken record, but this is definitely another game that I've never played, but I've heard a lot of good things about. I mean, it did seem like it was kind of ahead of its time a little bit.
Definitely, yeah. And that's one reason I wanted to play this track is I thought this would be new to a lot of people, and I don't think it's one people would think to go back and listen to the soundtrack.
I think with this track alone, I mean, it definitely has me interested. Like, I want to check out more of that soundtrack.
Yeah, definitely should.
I will ask you this. Does it go for a bit of a similar tone with this track, or does it get more epic in sound? Or,
It picks up a little bit, get a few more layers to it.
and I'm assuming that a lot of the areas that you visit in the game, I guess it's just your typical fantasy type deal. Like, do you
Yeah, yeah. EverQuest it has a very kind of traditional fantasy to it. It definitely has some unique, cool aspects, but you have your wood elves and your angry orcs and that sort of thing.
I mean, I think that does sound pretty cool to me.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool game. Might be tough to go back to today, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if it's worth playing today. I mean, like if somebody was into World of Warcraft or anything like that, would EverQuest be a good game to go back to?
Yeah, maybe as an academic exercise, but not one I would see people going back to without the nostalgia and playing it for too long.
Definitely some good stuff. I'm not sure if you're ready to move on. I mean, I'm pretty
Mhm.
excited for what you got next.
Yeah, I thought this next one would be a little more up your listeners' usual alley. Now, this next track is definitely also a big game from my childhood, maybe even a little earlier in my childhood, which I've always and still do just love the aesthetic and kind of vibe this game has.
Oh yeah, it is a really cool one. And the game that we're talking about is Vectorman. You brought the track options for the show, and that track was composed by John Holland. Okay, that track that you guys just listened to, that was Options from the game Vectorman, and it was composed by John Holland.
Yeah, definitely a really cool track. I remember as a kid being kind of blown away by the Vectorman music. You know, it definitely had a different sound to everything else I had played up until that point, and it stuck with me.
I thought the game itself looked pretty cool. I think the way that I see it is it was kind of like Sega's answer to Donkey Kong Country with the graphics.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely had that kind of 2D, 3D vibe to it.
I mean, it
Yeah,
did seem like the game was more action oriented, though.
yeah, it's definitely. I think there was definitely a Mega Man feel to it. You know, with the kind of arm blaster and stuff like that. It definitely shared a lot of DNA.
Yeah, I
To
was
be
just
honest,
oh,
to be honest, I think I would have to go back to and play it again to really say if it's good or not, because I think I was probably about 6 or 7 when I played it. So not the best taste back then.
well, I think it must have been good enough that it wound up getting a sequel. Like I think not too long after.
Yeah, and you definitely see some fans out there. I've run into some other ones.
I uh I never really heard of Vector Man until like much later on, and I think I was became aware of it through the Sonic Mega Collection. So I know I had a bunch of Sonic the Hedgehog games, and I want to say they had the two Vector Man games on it as well. I do agree with you though. This track is I think it's really cool. I mean it's definitely a Sega Genesis track. I mean it's got that dirty Genesis sound to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
you can't really replicate that anymore. It's I miss being able to identify a console by the sound profile. There was something cool about that with the hearing the different things people would make with the different limitations, even at the same time, and they can sound wildly different.
yeah, the lines are a bit blurred these days. So I mean, all the systems like the technological limitations are hardly limitations at this point. I mean, you could do anything, really. And now that I think about it, I don't think there's too many of those retro throwback games that really utilize that Genesis sound. So I think they typically try to like emulate like the like 8-bit NES style and not so much with the 16-bit FM sounds of the Genesis.
Yeah, definitely. It's underappreciated.
I think that goes a bit off topic, but this was the main reason why I had you on the show. Is because, well, I think you should explain what you got going on.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. So, yeah, came on today because we really want to promote. We're going to be doing an Extra Life event with Commodore. The messenger here will be participating as well. It'll be Saturday, May 20th. You can follow us on twitch.tv/Commodore Gaming Erie, or if you just want to donate, we are raising money for the Children's Miracle Network. For those who aren't familiar with Extra Life, this money goes to benefit kids in Erie. And you can do that at extralife.org/participant/Commodore gaming, and Commodore is Commodore.
I'm going to be throwing a lot of links for it in the show notes, and I'm definitely going to be passing the word around for this. I mean, this is a really good thing that we're going to be doing, and it's for a real good cause too.
Yeah, can't. I think if there's one thing we can all agree on is it's taking care of sick kids.
I
All
actually
right.
cannot wait to do this too. I mean, it's going
Yeah.
to be a lot of fun. I know that you're planning on having a lot of really cool guests for that stream, and
Yeah, that's the hope. We've got a few lined up and stuff, still finalizing kind of our lineup, but we're gonna make an event out of it. It should be pretty cool to watch. All right, now should we get back to the music here? Our next track we're gonna listen to is Moonlit City Lumina, and this is from Legend of Mana, and the composer is Yoko Shimomura.
That track that you guys just listened to, that was Moonlit City Lumina from the game Legend of Mana, and that was composed by Yoko Shimomura.
Yeah, really great track, and it's kind of another one that I hear it and I feel like I'm a kid again because I was probably 12 or 13 when this game came out, and we played so much of it. Just having an RPG that you could play co-op was huge for us back then. You didn't see much like that.
This definitely was a really good track, and I'm not sure if I've told you this, but I'm like a huge Yoko Shimomura fan. But surprisingly, I'm not too familiar with this soundtrack, and I think this track alone definitely makes me want to check out the rest of it.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a great soundtrack. Definitely worth checking out the whole thing. And great game, worth checking out for those who haven't played it.
How similar to Secret of Mana is it?
It's definitely a lot different. The similarities more in the vibes than anything else, but it's a Legend of Mana is like a very unique RPG where you're kind of building out the world map yourself, and there's kind of just a lot of odd systems to it. So there's not really much else out there that's similar.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I have kind of dabbled with the Mana games a little bit, but definitely haven't played Legend.
Yeah, it's one I meet a lot of people who haven't played it because I think it kind of went under the radar a little bit back on the PS1, but it's a unique gem. It's worth going back to play because I still haven't played anything else like it.
You know, I was just thinking like the PS1, I mean, that's got like just a huge wealth of really good RPGs.
Yeah, that was the peak era for me. That time in my life, I had lots of time to play video games, and I loved RPGs. So I probably played more of them on the PS1 than any other system.
Well, I'm going to give you two choices on what we do next. We can keep the RPG train rolling with this one track, or would you want to go in a quite a bit of a different direction? Go with this more darker, more somber sounding track.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the Saint Ajoras theme.
Well, I guess we're spoiling it just a little bit, only by a few seconds. This next track is Holy Angel, also known as Saint Ajora's theme, from the game Final Fantasy Tactics, and this was composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto. That track that you guys just heard, that was Holy Angel, also known as Saint Ajora's theme from the game Final Fantasy Tactics, and it was composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto.
Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics is one of those games that I think now gets more of its due, but at the time, I remember playing that game and no one else knowing what I was talking about at school, you know? But in my opinion, it is the best Final Fantasy game as far as the story and the writing. And I'm a big fan of the more tactics, grid based combat of that series, or of that entry in the series. Definitely one of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that they kind of came up with this spin-off game and it just turned out really well and the soundtrack is quite good. And actually, to be honest, if I didn't know that this was Hitoshi Sakimoto, I would have definitely said that this was Nobuo Uematsu, who's the main Final Fantasy composer.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole soundtrack is kind of that way. It definitely has a very similar feel. I'd be curious to see if those two have done a lot of work together.
I think on the top of my head, I don't think they've ever collaborated.
Well, they definitely maybe draw from some similar inspirations then.
I would say for sure that uh, Sakimoto definitely replicated the Final Fantasy sound, and I guess as like a bit of an impersonation, it was a pretty damn good one.
Yeah, and I think that track they nailed that feeling that oh, something's about to go bad for me. And when you hear that track, it has the intended effect.
I was gonna say, like, is the character a villain in the game, or
Yeah, they use this theme several times throughout the game for villains, but they're for the main ones. You don't hear it super often. It's really when something bad's coming.
I mean, I could definitely hear that. I mean, geez, it's pretty sinister sounding.
Definitely.
Well, I'm looking at my track list, and it's looking like you've got one more song for me.
Yeah, that's correct. We're gonna lighten things up a little bit. I know these tracks have been a little somber. I don't know what that says about me, but this one is a little more upbeat. It's the Greenpath theme from Hollow Knight, another one of my favorites, and this is by Christopher Larken.
That whimsical sounding track was Greenpath from the game Hollow Knight. It was composed by Christopher Larken.
Yeah, another one of my recent favorites, and probably my favorite soundtrack. Is just fantastic. For those who haven't played the game, Green Path is kind of the quote unquote forest area of the game. The game takes place in an underground city, but this area is overgrown and bursting with life, and everything's growing out of control, and you're fighting, plant enemies and all sorts of things like that. And I think this music really captures that feeling of growth and just things kind of going rampant.
It's a game that I definitely want to check out because, from my understanding, it's a Metroidvania, and I really like those kind of games.
Yeah, I'm a big Metroidvania fan, and I think out of them all, Hollow Knight is my favorite. A lot of it is just, I really love the aesthetics of it. I love the little bug people and all the hand drawn scenes. And if you haven't played the game, there's so many areas that are just drop dead gorgeous. Like you have to stop and just stare at the screen for a while because the art's so amazing. The people who created the game were artists originally and now are moving into video games, and it really, you can really see that artistic integrity in the game where there weren't really corners cut. They just made it as beautiful as they possibly could.
I want to say that you have requested a different track from this game before, and I remembered really liking that as well. So
Yeah,
I think between that and you bringing this track, I mean, I think I got a fairly nice sample of the soundtrack of Hollow Knight. I gotta say, it's some really good stuff.
yeah, definitely check out the soundtrack if not the game, because there's some Christopher Larkin's great, and this is some of his best work.
I know this is the part that everyone's pretty sad about, but
Thanks again for having me, and thanks to all your listeners. Again, just to remind you, we are raising money here, and if you'd like to donate, you can go to commodoregaming.org, and I have links on there for our Extra Life page and links to join our Discord. It's mostly Erie people, but anyone's welcome. It's a great place to talk about games, whatever you're into.
well, I actually, before I get into that, I should say, thank you for coming on the show, Matt. It was a lot of fun to talk about these tracks with you.
Yeah, I had a great time. I really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to doing something again together again a week from Saturday.
I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely involved in the extra life stuff, so I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time, and it's a great cause.
Well, that's going to just about do it for the show. If you like what you've been listening to, have your friends check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever podcasting service that you can think of. I'm more than likely going to be on there. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com, and you can also check us out on Twitter at vgmjourney. We also have a Discord server for the show, which I will provide a link for that in the show notes, where you can hang out with your fellow VGM journeymen and talk about games, music, and even look at some cool art. I'm also going to play things out with one more track, and Matt, I promise you, this is a really good one. This is coming from the game Thunder Force 4, also known as Lightning Force. The track is Stand Up Before Myself, and it was composed by Takeshi Yoshida, Toshiharu Yamanishi, and Naosuke Arai. Have a good one, everyone.